Hey guys, I just have to tell you that I was laughing when I went to the channel before starting to record this video. I told you that I don't edit these, and those lovely thumbnails that show up on the YouTube always showcase just that. They're always like the very worst look with crazy eyes or a fucked up face or something like that. Like YouTube's messing with me and selecting to showcase the absolutely worst facial expressions. Anyway, it always makes me laugh. I hope it does for you too. As always, entertainment disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. Take what you want from it. This is not to be meant to be therapeutic advice. Again, it's for entertainment, sharing my story. Take from it what you want. Oh Lord, can't talk today. I also wanted to thank you for the great notes and comments about Arthur Findlay. I went to another class later in the journey, and so stay tuned. I'll give you more details on that video as well about Arthur Findlay. But back to where we are in the story. After the quick trip to the UK and home in the States for a couple more days, although it was no longer feeling like home, I decided I wanted more time in Costa Rica. It was my happy place after all, and I was still processing what to do with everything I had learned at Arthur Findlay, and that I had personally proved through my experiences there again and again with the exercises that the gifts from the universe are real. And I had no clue what that meant for my life, and I didn't really want to tackle that puzzle yet. So it proverbially hung in the air, and I knew that I needed to figure it out really soon. And I knew that I couldn't go back to not knowing, and I knew it would dramatically impact my world. I just didn't know how to handle it yet, or how I wanted it to impact my world, or what it meant, or what to do with it, or really anything. I've told you guys before that a lot of me is brain. And this defied everything I knew to date about logic. But yet, I couldn't ignore the truth of all the experiences. But I'm also not a girl who knows how not to be productive and just how to relax when I'm trying to tackle shit. And I knew I had some additional shadow work to do and work through. So for now, I kind of ignored the Arthur Findlay stuff. And as fun as it sounds, I decided dealing with, at this juncture in my development, would be way easier dealing with the shadow stuff and the muck than figuring out what the hell to do with this 5D stuff. I was still a little sad from dealing with the emotions of being stateside and still feeling emotions about actually what the hell happened with Hadi and not having any answers. As always, I was coaching my executive clients and loving every minute of it. It was the only time that my new world felt normal. I think I knew somewhere deep in my mind that I was a place in my journey that was kind of an in-between phase. I didn't really think about this at the time. I wasn't who I was before. I knew that for sure. But I wasn't sure of who I was yet in my entirety. I was still me, of course, but kind of in this space in between. I knew what I didn't want and what I had always wanted and what I learned and some of what I still had to process. And coaching was my proverbial safe space while I was evolving because I love it and I get to help brilliant people and to be better and do better themselves. So I was putting myself through the same process. I would kind of equate it to a butterfly being in a self-imposed cocoon, still like caught in the pupa stage. Is that how you pronounce it? However you say that, the transition phase. Before I had traveled to the UK, I think I've shared this on an earlier video, I decided to have a way better work-life balance and spend more time on me, the things I like to do and learn and grow. So when I kept back to Costa Rica, I kept that up. I had a really nice balance between work time and free time still. I spend tons of time hiking in nature. There's just nothing that gets me grounded more than spending time hiking through beautiful jungles solo. It's pretty well worn and it's safe there with free and beautiful animals playing and living all around you. There's just nothing like being in Cahuita. It's a sleepy little town with so much spectacular nature, and the people couldn't be more warm and inviting, including with being so friendly and patient with me using my broken Spanish, which I was doing more and more. One of my favorite things is playing word games like Spanish Hangman with the kids or dominoes with the locals, or dancing in the streets as I walk by carrying my groceries, all practicing my terrible Spanish. I also continued on with my meditation practice. And at the time, I don't think I was doing it for any reason other than it was the only time I felt completely peaceful. And we've talked about that before in these videos. And I couldn't think. And it wasn't because I knew I should or that it helps the gifts or really anything logical. I really didn't want to do it. I needed to do it. And because of that, well, I needed to do it just for peace of mind. And because of that, I started to get really good at it. Good. Where in the beginning, I couldn't meditate for longer than 5 minutes. At this point in time, I could meditate for an hour and an hour and a half. It would fly by. I felt incredible during and after it. When I first started meditating, I used to set a timer or a clock, and it used to be torture, you know, getting to the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour or whatever. Now, I was at a point in time where I was just meditating for as long as it made sense every week, every day. Not every week, every day during the week. Just putting it into my routine. I actually found myself looking forward to the time I spent every day to do it. Because my meditation practice was developing despite me, my ability to get out of my head quicker and go deeper during the practice actually started to come naturally. As a part of that deep practice, I also started to astral travel a fair amount. I talked about it in my earlier videos quickly, but if you don't know what it is, it can be incredibly unnerving. I know that everyone has their own experiences, but the first time it happened to me before I went to Arthur Findlay, it scared the living shit out of me. I would equate it to feeling like you're leaving your body all of a sudden, and the first time it happened, it felt like I was floating up, and it scared me so much I stopped meditating altogether because the feeling shocked me so much, and I didn't like it. When I was at Arthur Findlay and having an evening happy hour with the other students, they started to talk about their experiences with astral travel. And it shocked me because they seemed to be putting words into what had happened that first time to me. Several of them were nice enough to explain their experiences with the astral travel, what it felt like, how to ground yourself, and what it was like for them. I cannot tell you enough that being able to normalize what the hell it was, put a label on it, and talk to other people who had had that experience, it was so reassuring. They were so generous with their wisdom about it. I digress. The point is that now all of a sudden I was deepening my meditation practice. Astral travel experiences were happening more to me. And now that I knew what they were, they didn't scare the hell out of me. So I actually got to enjoy the experiences. And while they were always different, they were just incredible and invigorating and inspiring. When I wasn't working, hiking, and meditating, I was still obsessed with trying to figure out what happened to Hottie. Or with Hottie. Not to Hottie. With Hottie. I know. That damn brain wouldn't let it rest. And because I couldn't get my answers personally, I watched so many tarot card readings for Libra and tried to get clarity. And when I didn't get personal readings. I did find nuggets from the collective readings that resonated. And honestly, I found them soothing. At least it gave my brain something to chew on or something to think about. After spending a little bit of time back in Costa Rica, I was starting to feel good again. I realized that I needed to keep processing more and more my shadow side and working on being my best me. Well, I'm not a list person, ever, much to the chagrin of everyone around me. I started to try and do a list of what I wanted next in my life. And as I started working on that list, I realized that I was still missing something that I couldn't quite put my fingers on yet. I started realizing that I needed community more. I'd spent quite a bit of time by this point by myself during my healing process, being a hermit. And while I was friendly to people I saw on the street, I spent way too much time by myself. And I'm a completely social creature. And I was starting to figure out what I wanted to do again, to play. I realized that I needed to start scheduling playtime. I know that sounds funny. And try new things again. And get some more joy and fun into my life. I was still secretly missing Hottie, even though I wasn't talking about it. I kept thinking somehow he would pop up and explain what the hell happened, and I kept manifesting his return. And then candidly, I just got sick of myself thinking about him. I gave myself a good kick in the ass, and certainly told myself to just focus on me. I decided logically, as funny as it sounds, to just focus on being happier, and doing happy things, and socializing more, and making it a point to have happier vibes. And I decided that every time I would think about him and try to figure out what happened, I would just tell myself to let the shit go. And that's easier said than done. So I decided I would visualize, literally, every time I thought of it, the thought on a little leaf floating down a running river away from me. So I let the thought float, go down a little leaf, rushing river, gone. And somehow this visualization made it easier and easier and easier every single day. This was the beginning of a very healthy habit that was instrumental in my transformation, although I didn't know it at the time, of focusing on me and filling my own cup of proverbial love and with stuff I loved for me. And I started to feel like my boss bitch self again, more and more every day. I was laughing more like I used to. I was reading lots of books that stimulated my brain. I love intellectual challenges. I was talking to strangers again and having inspirational conversations like I used to. And because of that, interesting how the universe works, my list of what I wanted in my life became easier. What I was doing without realizing it was getting rid of my blockages and boulders and letting in the light with joy and happiness. Simple, right? But again, I couldn't have told you that at the time. As life's little serendipities happened every day, like talking to a great Italian guy who was my waiter at an Italian restaurant by the sea that I had a solo dinner at. He described his lifestyle with the home base and his travel, and it just clicked with me. It just resonated. And so many days were like that. One by one, I felt this nice little jigsaw puzzle pieces going into place about what I wanted to build in my next phase of my journey. True to me, for me, and exactly what I wanted. Here's the interesting thing. I've been pretty clear on what I've wanted for a long time, but I didn't really have fine detail on it or logistics. And honestly, it needed refining based on exactly true to the better me that I was becoming. Still me, but just more refined, more authentic, and more loving to myself without any judgment. You know, the kind of love that I gave to everyone else around me, but never myself. And every day, the heavy and dark clouds began to lift without me really realizing it. And because I'm growing chronologically, this is exactly the time where the download about the global divine alchemy, this channel, and the beginning of what the mission was for this channel and for this business, got crystallized more and more. And I made a commitment to myself to start it. More about that in later videos. But for now, just a quick thought for you. While I'm introducing concepts, I just want to explain this. While I'm introducing concepts of my experiences with spirituality and 5D throughout these videos, like Astral Travel and this one, I just want to tell you some context for you and disclaimers for me. The first one is, look, everyone has their own journey and everyone has their own gifts. And I've found through tons of conversations that they look and they feel different for everyone. I'm not an expert and don't claim to be. What I can do is share my experiences so that as you're going through your own situations, it might help you label what it is or understand it or learn from it, or at least give yourself a little bit more grace and patience throughout the process than I did. 3, as I've always said, as I go through these videos, I'm giving you the process how it unfolded with the emotions that I felt at the time when it happened to the best of my ability. It is chronological. How I felt about them and people and situations now is not how I feel, how I felt then. You know, when I was going through this, I just did a little outline of journal notes that I used to do these videos. The last thing I want to say is I'm so grateful for you for sharing this journey with me and listening to my stories I share. I hope each video gives you a nugget of hope, inspiration, learning how to challenge yourself or not challenge yourself, or humor. I hope you take something away from each video. And as always, I would be so grateful if you'd like it, share it, subscribe, as you're so called. My only mission in doing this is to help others' lives and to help their own radical acceptance of self and to make it a little bit easier. Until next time,